Welcome to Stand Up Sales episode 9. Technically it's out of 10, but we fucked up the recording on the last one, so we're running it back. This is the first, technically, Stand Up Sales of 2023. So welcome to 2023, my man. What's going on, Dylan?
It's going pretty good. Yeah, Riverside really botched the last one. It was a good call, but today's going to be even better. We're going to talk about why salespeople suck. And sometimes it's not your fault, which we'll talk about.
Other times it is your fucking fault, and you need to get better.
Yes, this is also true. So it's somewhat on you and somewhat on your management, but we're going to dive deep into the reasons why we think we see salespeople struggle. Because it's a hard job at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I had an experience today, which kind of sparked the topic for today's call, is going back to Zoom Info. I know we've spoken to them on the show before, but they're still hounding me. So now they put an SDR on me because the AE, I guess,
Got tired of fucking following up.
Yeah, the AE got tired of following up with me, and they got an SDR. And he's got to be new. Or Zoom Info is just terrible at coaching, and they just put people in there for like a sink or swim situation, which I feel like might be the thing they do.
Yeah.
But this guy, he called me. I called him back from a different number because I don't know why. I just called him back from a Twilio number, and he was like, "Hey man, yeah, blank AE's name wanted me to follow up with you, get you a meeting on the calendar." I go, "Hey man, I'm going to stick with Cognism. Actually, thanks for the follow up." Like that was supposed to be the end of the call, right? I'm going to the competitor. So he continued to dig, which I appreciated. He goes, "Yeah, it's awesome, but I'd love to do a side-by-side analysis with Zoom Info and Cognism." And then I was like, "Yeah, man, like I train SDRs. I work with SDRs. I've been an SDR. I've been in sales. I appreciate what you're doing, but honestly, like mark me as closed lost in Salesforce, and you're going to get
Move on with your day.
Yeah, move on with your day and delete me from your call list. It's just not there for you." And he literally was like, "Yeah, great, awesome. Like, let's get a call scheduled to." I was like, "Dude, what? No, like I'm not your ideal customer right now. Like I'm not going with it." And he goes, "I've never heard of Cognism." I was like, "What?" I was like, "What do you mean you never heard of Cognism? Like I know you're lying." And he's like, "Yeah, I've heard of our other big competitors like Apollo." I was like, "Apollo's nowhere near doing
You are a clown. Get off the call, bro. Oh, that stinks.
Yeah, and I started to feel bad for him because, like, he's probably calling on Gong and someone's going to record and listen to this call. And I was like, "Hey, man, like, to be totally nice and transparent, like, it's not a fit, man. It's not going to happen." And he was like, "Yeah, awesome. Definitely set you up a call to Alex." I'm like, "Oh, my God." I had to hang up on him. I felt bad. But I was like, "Come on, man. Like, listen to the prospect. Don't just motor on through. Like, it's not going to work. It's not going to work."
I think that's the big thing that I found when I review a lot of calls is like when you treat it as there's two ways of thinking about a sales process, right? There's the things that you have to do in order to like make it a successful process. Like I have to keep my fundamentals strong. I have to make sure that I challenge people at least once, right? All of these are like basic stuff. And then there's a sales process, which is a tick box exercise of things that I have to do so I don't get shouted at. And that's basically what he did, right? He was like, well, he said this, but if I don't keep following up, I'm going to get shouted at. So I better keep doing it. And lo and behold, you just hung up on him. So he's lost that anyway.
Yeah, and like I was really trying to be nice. Like I feel you, bro. Like I literally help people in your shoes. I train people to be SDRs and do exactly what you're doing, man. I was like I'm trying to tell you right now, like marketing's closed off. Yeah. Like this ain't it. It's not gonna work. I'm never gonna book a call with you. Like I'm just trying to be open. So like my prospect is like very much like that. Like there's
Take
really
the
not
L
much
and move on.
Yeah, like a no is good. Now you don't have to call me or email me or do anything. Now I'm off your plate. So like that's a win, right, for an SDR. But this guy just didn't take the hint. I was like, come on, man.
I think that's the big learning, right? For most people in sales, it's like a no is as good as a yes.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand that, and you think that only yeses are good, you will spend your entire time in sales chasing yeses. And that is a categorical waste of your own time.
Yeah, literally. It's not a good use of your time.
Yeah.
It's like, would you follow up with a girl who has no interest in you to go on a date? No, you wouldn't. You would move on. You would
It's like,
move
look,
on.
dude, I am literally not interested in you whatsoever. But anyway, so Thursday, what are we thinking? No, you
Yeah.
look like a nutbag.
You like steak, Italian, sushi. What do you like? I don't like anything.
I don't eat food. Anything to get you to fuck off.
I'm not hungry. All right, how about drinks?
I actually watched that play out in a bar once, and bless her, this girl was so sweet about it. She was just like, "Oh yeah, like I'm not really feeling it, whatever." And he was like, "Yeah, but like you gotta enjoy something." She was like, "No, like I'm just not really like trying to date." And he was like, "Yeah, but what about mini golf?" And I literally put my head in my hands, and I was like, "He's not gonna give up." And eventually, like she just went, "Look, I'm just genuinely not interested in you." And at that point, he just went, "Ah,
Got it. Okay.
ah shit." That's the end of the conversation.
So can I have your number? Or... Well, that situation right there is categorically half on the salesperson and half on the way he's trained in management style. Because if management wasn't like, get the meeting at all costs, and like you're only evaluated and paid on like that, like he probably wouldn't have had that inclination to push so hard.
Yeah.
At the same time, he's got to also use his own critical thinking, because as salespeople, you are hired for a reason.
Yeah.
People hire you because they like you and they need you to bring your own creativity and your own spin on sales to their organization.
Yeah.
Like, don't ever forget that you are an essential piece of the company, and people are hiring people they think are going to help grow that company. So like, flex your skill that got you hired, right? Like, don't just assimilate and just be another robot. Like, be yourself, use your personality, be charismatic, be weird, go think outside the box. Like, that's a huge thing for me in sales. Like, be weird, like get weird with things, like say out of the box shit, stand out from the rest of salespeople.
I think the thing that made that clearest to me was I'm not a massive like you need to build rapport at the start of a call person at all, right? I think it's a costly waste of time 9 times out of 10. But there are certain prospects that you genuinely do really vibe with, right? And like I think for the life of me I don't remember who this guy is, right? It was a random prospect, didn't close, like wasn't a good fit for the business, so we just kind of like chat shit for like 15 minutes, and that was it. And then we kind of parted ways as friends, and that was the end of it. But like we ended up talking about some like really niche element of like, so he played for he played like 8-ball pool at a really high level, and I love playing pool, right? So we sat and fucking talked about chalk for like 10 minutes. And he was like, dude, I wish that we actually needed this, but like in reality, like there's no point in me buying this. I'm just wasting money. But like, I really appreciate the conversation. I was like, yeah, it was fun, and that was it. And then the conversation ended. But
that guy could know somebody who needs you and refer you because this guy's cool. That's like a huge part. That's why I think we're a little bit not even ground, and that's a good thing. That's the whole reason of this podcast is you have a perspective, I have a perspective, right? It's like I do like building rapport. That's like I'm like a social seller. Obviously, like you can't be like corny. Like build rapport for the sake of actually being a human and connecting with another human being. Don't build rapport because it's a buzzword and you know you have to do it. And you're like, where are you from? What's the weather? But like if you find a common ground, like be a person. Like that's what's gonna people are gonna buy from people they like at the end of the day.
I think the issue I guess I take with rapport building is that it's treated like a skill. And it's not a skill. It's you being a reasonable fucking human being, right? And like in part, is that a skill that people have or don't have? Can you teach it? Whatever. But like in terms of actual sales training in an organization, you should not be taught how to create rapport. You need to be taught how to fucking sell. That's your job. Your job is not being nice to prospects. It's not figuring out whether you went to the same fucking city or your aunt lives in the same fucking town. No one cares. I'm not going to buy because of that, right? But if you can have an interesting conversation about fucking pool chalk with someone, are they likely to recommend you to someone that they know needs your service? Maybe.
Yeah. And rapport is awesome in follow-up.
Yeah.
Like if you, like this goes back to another part of our calls is like take good notes. Like if someone's talking about something like, hey man, I'm going on vacation on a ski trip to this spot. Like write that down. Use that in your follow-ups. Hey man, how was your ski trip? Or like in your follow-up, say I'm going to, maybe I'm visiting Tampa, right? Say I don't live in Tampa. Like go maybe find a restaurant in Tampa and be like, hey man, thanks for the call today. Enjoy your time in Tampa. I heard this restaurant was really good.
Yeah.
Use
reasonable.
it to your advantage. Yeah.
100%. Like a prospect recently was like, oh yeah, I'm going to somewhere in Central Europe, and that's where I'll be for our call on Monday. And I was like, what do you mean somewhere in Central Europe? And she was like, oh yeah, like I'm just kind of like pottering around, and I'm meeting a friend and we're going somewhere. And I texted her on Monday morning, and I was like, hey, I hope you arrived safely wherever you ended up in Central Europe. And she called me literally like 20 minutes later and was like, and I was like, where did you go? She was like, I don't really know. I was like, how did you get there? She was like, well, I flew into Spain, and then my friend picked me up, and now we're up on fucking Spanish Mountain. And I was like, that's sick. Chatted about Spanish Mountains for about 5 minutes, and then we kind of just got on with the call.
Sounds like a sequel to Taken, but yeah. So guys are picking me up at the airport in Spain, and we're in
now we're here. Yeah.
What's another reason why you think salespeople are not as good as they could be?
Poor training. Genuinely, poor training. So the thing that we've realized from so we run sales training, you run sales training, you must see it a ton as well, is like people will pick up on bad habits from whoever trained them, or even worse, they don't get any real level of training, so that when they go into a sales org and someone says, we do things like this, they go, okay, and then they do things like that too. And then it's just everyone gets dumber the more this cycles, right? Because their boss does it one way and their boss did it that way, so they got taught it, and then they teach the person that comes in below them that this is the way that they do it, and no one has any level of critical thinking or assessment of how things might be able to be done better. It's just we do it this way because we do it this way. Yeah. That I think is the biggest killer in sales teams especially.
Yeah, it goes back to my point of people hire you for a reason. They don't hire you to be a robot. They could hire a VA if they just wanted someone to follow an SOP and just check the boxes. You were hired for your innate personal abilities in sales. At least you should have been hired for that.
You could have been hired to be a task monkey. That sucks, but that could be your job.
Then you probably shouldn't have taken the role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And that's a big thing. Sales starts at the interview process. You have to make sure that you're joining a good opportunity, not the first one that falls into your lap.
Yeah. I think
teach a lot of people on
don't realize.
Yeah, I teach a lot of our SDRs, right? Because we help them get jobs, and they obviously have to interview. It's not like, hey, here's a job, sign this contract. Mm-hmm. It's not that easy. It's easier than most interview processes, but you have to be vetting the company as they're vetting you as the salesperson in the interview process. So if you join a bad company, you're probably not going to be as good at sales as you could be if you had the proper systems, processes, offer, which is huge. Because I'm sure you see a lot of closers that are good at closing, but it's a bad offer.
Bad at picking offers.
Yeah, bad at picking offers. And you can't be good at sales. You can't be great at sales if you're not selling something that you truly believe in. You have to portray that subconsciously that this offer is awesome to the prospect. That you could have a great discovery, you could do a demo, you could do a good close and tie downs. But if you honestly don't believe in the offer, that's going to come across, and you're probably not going to be as motivated to close the deal if you don't believe in it. If it doesn't actually
100%.
do what it says.
100%. And the other thing is, you are not going to come across as confident because you don't know that the thing works.
Yeah.
So how can you possibly convince a prospect that the same is true?
Yeah.
Because you're like, I don't know, it might be shit. Maybe good, maybe shit. Who knows, right? And then at that point, the prospect is looking at you like, well, this guy fucking sells this and he doesn't believe it might.
Yeah.
How am I going to believe it?
Yeah, how am I going to believe in it? And then I think another thing that I see about salespeople is they just don't go the extra mile. They're lazy. They're just checking the boxes. That's my biggest red flag in bad sales. Okay. Is you can tell that say the Zoom info guy today, right? If I just said no, he's like, all right, cool, click. That's bad sales. At least try one time, right? Go actually
see if they're trying to fuck you off, or whether it was an actual it's a maybe. And if it's a maybe, then go back to your job. Stop following up again.
Yeah, that was the main topic in our SDR Whisperer call today, is talking about New Year's sales. And everyone that you're probably following up with from December that's pushed you off into 2023 is also realizing that they told probably 10 other salespeople to follow up with them in January, and then now they're getting crushed with follow-up calls, and they're probably going to push you off again because that's what people do, is they get, overwhelmed with something, and they're just like,
fuck it all off.
Follow up in February, we're still busy. But the big question that I taught our guys today is like, what would change, David, between now and the time in which you're telling you to follow up? And like, that's a very powerful question. Super simple question to ask, but it really helps the prospect think why they're doing what they're saying. Like, are you telling me to follow up in 2 weeks because you don't want to talk right now because you're never going to talk to me and you're just being polite and you don't have the balls to tell me that you're not interested? Yeah. Or is there an actual real reason behind you telling me to follow up in 2 weeks?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'd be interested in your perspective on this, right? So obviously I've not come from an SDR background, right? My background in sales is more like, I started multiple startups and you have to sell, and I sold fucking suits and shit, right? So like my version of sales is very different to your version of sales. Do you think that there is a world where you sending a text or an email to a prospect that told you to follow up in January, saying, hey, I bet you told that prospect to follow up in January. Let me know if this is a good time. If not, I'm going to hit you up in February when things have calmed down. Do you think that actually has better or worse outcomes? Do you think someone's going to like swoop in and steal the deal? Or do you think that little, like, I guess, social bid is going to be helpful for them to go, wow, this guy's not a complete fucking moron? Fair enough.
I mean, it depends on the level of the conversations that you've had.
Okay.
To that point. Like, if it was like a cold call in December and someone's like, yeah, it sounds kind of cool, calling back in January, you don't really have like foundation of why you're following up, except like this is the first conversation, then I don't think that would work at all. Okay. But if it was something that you've had like 2 calls with, or you've been talking to them on email, and you have some substance of like why you're actually reaching out to them, not that they just said to, then that might work. Like, I have a call right after this, right, with a guy, and I just emailed him beforehand because it was like 2-3 weeks out that we pushed it out. Yeah. And I said, hey man, like, we have a call in 30 minutes. Is this still a relevant call for you? Yeah. And like, that's a good touch point, because then you're not going to waste each other's time. Because they're probably like, the worst thing is if someone sees their calendar invite and they're like, shit, this fucking thing. And they're like, reschedule this, because they don't want to do it. So just, pose the question to save yourself some time. That definitely does work if you had rapport.
That's something that I've started doing. Whenever I get like a pushed, like someone reschedules with no reason, the first thing that I email back is like, have you gone off this idea? Is this not a priority anymore? Do you not want to pursue this? If they say yes, fantastic. No follow-up call from me. I get an hour back. I don't have to think about you anymore. You've already told me no. Fantastic. Off you fuck. Right? Yeah. And if they're like, I'm just super busy, you get an answer. Right? And that's fine. Yeah. People are busy. It happens. Right? But if I don't know that, I have to assume that like you don't give a shit about this anymore.
Yeah, like you just scheduled it to schedule it.
Yeah. You scheduled it because you know it's part of my sales process and you're always going to bail.
Yeah. Actually, I just want to know about pricing.
I had a prospect today. I had a prospect tell me, I was just curious. And I was like, what were you curious about? And he was like, stuff about like the program. I was like, well, I mean, I don't think we can help you. Like, it doesn't sound like you need anything from this. Like, it sounds like that you kind of have all your problem solved. So what are you curious about? He was like, I don't know. I just kind of wanted to chat and find out what you guys do. I was like, okay, well, considering we don't really think that we can help, and you don't want us to help anyway, may as well stop wasting each other's time and go off the call. And he's like, okay. And that was the end of it. And I was like, what the fuck is the point of this?
Yeah, and like, that's another sales thing, is like, don't assume that they know exactly what the call's about. Don't assume that they know what you sell. Don't assume that they know anything, right? Like, come at it from a blank slate in that perspective. Like, act dumb to the point of like painfully asking questions that that you expect them to know, but you don't know that they honestly know it. Like, I've had mad prospects, the more we put content out, the more inbounds we get. And like, people book calls and they're just not even remotely a fit.
I don't get that. I really don't. Like, why are you here? How much free time do you have? This seemed like a fun idea for you.
Yeah. Are you having fun? I'm not having fun right now.
I
Not
genuinely
happy.
think people that do that just enjoy like cosplaying as like someone important.
Some people are just lonely.
Move, man! Go find someone in your local area, not me. I live in a foreign country. I'm not going to be that much fun. Fuck off if you're not going to buy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but that goes back to the point of like you have to be good at your sales process. Like qualify, like the company should have some sort of qualifications before the call.
How does that work in reality?
Like you need to qualify on the front end. Like you're big about disqualifying
Yeah.
the entire process. Like you have to start at the beginning before you even talk to the person. Like you have to try to disqualify them.
Yeah.
So the more questions, the more indications, looking at their website before the call,
Yeah.
checking out their title, right? If they're like the digital marketing analyst, they're probably not going to be like your call, right? Like, yeah, you might need to have that call to unlock the decision maker, but like call a spade a spade. Like, hey man, I noticed your website didn't load and your company has one employee and it's you on LinkedIn. Like, our starting fees start at like $6,000 a month. Just want to be open and transparent about things because I don't believe in wasting each other's time.
Yeah.
Like, is this something that you could see yourself investing in, or would this be a value add to your company?
Yeah.
Like, do your research before the call. Don't just hop on the call and be like, this guy's going to be the most qualified person on earth. Like, how did he come into your company? Yeah. Was it through email, call, inbound? Research the person, research the company. Do these things before the call, and if something's a red flag, like identify it. Reach out before the call. People will appreciate
honestly, I think people can get a bit confused when I go so crazy on disqualification. And the reason for that is, like, I genuinely believe disqualification and disqualifying hard makes prospects who are ready to buy and want to buy more, because they're like, oh shit, I don't just try and sell everyone, so that's a good thing. And also, it just means that my job is infinitely easier. If my standard practice is telling everyone to fuck off, and you're like, no, I want this, great. I don't have to work any harder than I already am. I'm going to go through my regular call process, and at the end of it, you're going to fucking buy it. So great. Like, even people who seem qualified from the outside in, right? So I got on a call with someone, and they'd gotten like 8 figures in VC money from a very, very well-known VC. Like, the fucking... I literally don't even know who's fucking ranking number 1 in the NFL right now. Otherwise, I would use that as a comparison set. I'm so used to saying the Pats, and now the Pats suck. So yeah, I can't use that anymore. But anyway, they're like creme de la creme of VC funds, and I knew they had money, but I'm still going to actively try and disqualify you out of this because I don't know if you have money for me. You may have a massive bankroll, but are you planning on spending any of it with me?
So how did you disqualify that person, or try to disqualify that person?
So for example, they mentioned that they had gotten the funding. It was super recent. I think they said it was in like November maybe. So it's like fresh money, right? And then I said, okay, so are you looking around? Are you kind of shopping around right now? Like, what's the rationale for kind of looking to invest in something like this right now? They were like, oh, we needed this yesterday. Like, we really needed to buy this, and we just put it off and put it off and put it off, and now it's the beginning of January, we've got all this shit coming up, and I just need to get it done. And I was like, okay. So when you're thinking about, investing in something like this, like, what's the most important thing? And the first thing he said was price. And I was like, okay. So there's definitely a sticking point here. At some point, there's going to be a sticking point, right? Because even if I think we're the most affordable thing on the planet for the value that we bring, if the most important thing in your consideration set is price, we've got to address it, right? And I said, okay, so in terms of price, like, what budget did you have? And they were like, well, I don't really have a budget planned out. I just know that what kind of range I'm looking at, right? So they went around to other agencies, and it was like 40, 50 grand. And they were like, that's so expensive, right? Yeah. And I was like, okay, so is that expensive for you, or was that like way expensive for you? And he was like, yeah, no, like, that's expensive. Like, we can't really afford that. And I'm like, okay, cool. So then my logic was, bear in mind, we were like, a fifth of the price of that.
Yeah.
So If that's expensive in your mind, then I know for a fact that when I tell you price, it's going to be an easier sell, right? And then it was like, okay, how else can I disqualify you? When are you looking to make this decision? Oh, we want
This is all email exchange?
No, this is on the call. First 5 minutes.
Oh, on the call. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
first 5 minutes. But on email, like I have basically a templated email that I send to anyone that, in my mind, answers our Calendly questions wrong.
Yeah.
If you give dumb answers to Calendly questions, I'm gonna email you and be like, "Come on, are we doing this or not?" And it works.
Yeah.
Just cancels calls off my diary. They're like, "Oh no, yep, you're right. I can't afford that. I'm not gonna do this. I'll come back in a couple months." Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because like that goes back to like being a good salesperson,
Yeah.
right? It's like, are you going to spend 20 minutes of a 30-minute discovery call just for the last 10 minutes to like be a total absolutely not? That's a waste of everyone's time, your time especially as a salesperson. Like, why would you go through the whole song and dance to realize she's married?
You're wasting your own fucking time.
You're wasting your own time. Yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah, disqualification is good. Like, I sometimes could even do a better job at that. I've honestly started to do a better job the more I see you tweet about it, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, I should be a little bit more of a not a prick, but a little bit more stingy
Yeah.
with calls.
Like, I would genuinely rather take on fewer clients and have all of those clients genuinely be great than take on a shit ton of clients, scale really big, and then you realize that 4 out of the 10 clients that you scaled to are actually wankers. You don't enjoy working with them, and because you didn't disqualify as actively as you should have done, you're not getting the best results.
Yeah. Yeah, you
Don't work with them. It's so simple.
You got to think like a high ticket or like a high profile like attorney. Like they don't take on cases that they don't know they're going to win.
Yeah, exactly that, right? Because my win rate is what keeps me alive.
Yeah.
The money that comes in is neither here nor there because I'm going to make money anyway.
Yeah, I had a good situation. I pulled it up. So a guy emailed me yesterday at like 7 o'clock. He goes, hey, found your website on Google. I searched cold email and LinkedIn outreach solutions. Could you help me with that question mark? If so, please send me a proposal ASAP.
Okay.
I'd like to reach out to 50 new leads every day on email and LinkedIn. That's like totally super easy. VP, it's like a pretty big company. So I was like, great, awesome. We can definitely help with that. But so I can make the proposal relevant, what things are you evaluating when it comes to an outbound partner? Because a lot of people would be like, oh yeah, sick. My SEO is working.
Yeah.
They found me. He's got need. Like, you know, but their need is not, you don't know anything at this point. Why would I just send you a proposal with like everything
Generic
that we
bullshit proposal that is going to say everything and nothing.
Yeah, but like in our proposal, like we do a nuanced service, right? We create a sales team. There's so many variables that we need to know before we get into bed, right? So like, that's a great question, right? Like what things are you evaluating? What is relevant for you to see in a proposal, right? I'm not withholding information, but I'm making it more enticing to the prospect to get back to me. So he sent me like a 3-paragraph email back, exactly like he actually is a good prospect, but I wouldn't, if I were just to send him a proposal with like a price that he doesn't know, like the price is gonna be $6K a month. He's probably like, if he doesn't know about us, he's like, oh, this is way too much money, and just go to the next cheapest option. So it's like, yeah, before we send proposals, we book calls. It sounds like you definitely could be a fit, but we want to make sure that we're, you know, explaining what is in the proposal. So it's like, you could do 2 things in that way. You could just be an order taker, like we keep saying, and just send the proposal and be like, this is a qualified prospect. I'm put it in my pipeline as proposal sent, and now I'm on the hook for it. Yeah. But instead, it's like, let's book a call first, man. Yeah. Like, this is our process. This is what we need from you to earn our business.
Exactly that, right? You are the prize, ultimately. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, don't do shit for free. How much time is it going to take you to make a proposal? At least an hour of your day, minimum.
Yeah.
So, don't do that unless you get some kind of commitment out of it. Otherwise, it's just gone into ether. You might as well just burned an hour. You might as well sit and scroll fucking TikTok for an hour.
Yeah, and he probably went to the top 10 on Google, clicked them all, found the email.
Same email.
Same email to all of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like a proposal ASAP.
Yeah, most salespeople are going to run head first at that.
Yeah. Yeah. They take a deep breath. Like gather your bearings and actually make them do your
them
little bit
work.
of your process.
Yeah,
Yeah,
make them work for it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Anything else that you think the viewers would be useful to understand to stop sucking at?
I personally would work under the premise that you suck until that has been disproved, right? Because, like, that's genuinely, like, when I was first in sales, I took every opportunity to learn from every other person that's, like, doing better than me under the premise that I sucked, right? And it turned out that I didn't suck, and I was better than all of them. But that only came from being humble about it, being like, okay, I know nothing. Teach me everything you know. And then me going, all the stuff that you know isn't as useful as the stuff that I know. Okay, I guess I can kind of discount some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And then you
also
just
don't
learn
take
from
advice from bad people.
Oh yeah, don't take advice from stupid people. That's a big one, right? Like, that person should be, like, markedly better than you. Don't take advice from people who are at the same level as you, otherwise you're just going to suck in different ways.
Yeah, when I was an SDR, there was an SDR called Rahul. He was the best one on the team, like, by, like, a long shot. Yeah. Like, he would book, like, 15 meetings a week, and everyone else was at 8.
Damn.
So what I did was I moved my desk next to his. I asked my manager, hey, man, can I sit next to Rahul? I want to learn from him. He's like, yeah, sure, yeah. So I sat next to him. I just literally watched what he did and how he did it, and I just copied it, and then me and Rahul were at the top of the leaderboards. But if I sat next to the guy who was cool and booked 8 and got the bare minimum done, then maybe I don't learn as much. Yeah. So
exactly.
Find the top of the sales team and only focus on what they're doing.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's another part of it is there is conflicting evidence. There is a conflicting amount of, like, people on the internet within your own sales team as, like, who is the best, right? So at that point, like, have you read anything by Nicholas Taleb?
No.
No, Nicholas Taleb no. Okay. So basically, he says that you should pick the person in any instance that doesn't look like they belong in that job. So, like, you don't want the surgeon that looks like a surgeon, you want the one that looks like a fucking moron. Because he had to work twice as hard to get to where he is. If everyone else, like, looks or does the same thing, the likelihood is you get in because of commonalities between you, right?
Yeah. So,
I don't know anything about Rahul, right? But Rahul was probably a little bit quiet, a little bit nerdy, didn't really, like, hang out with the cool kids, and yet he was the highest performer. Why do you think that was? Because he wasn't like everyone else, and they were like, holy shit, this kid's a fucking genius.
Yeah.
So pick the one who you don't think is likely to have gotten there otherwise, and it's like they are here for a reason, right? They can compete because they got here for a reason versus everyone else who just kind of, like, swaned in.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. Send me the link to that. I'll put it in the description for you guys so you can buy the book and learn from someone smarter than you, like we're saying. I think it's a good part to wrap it. Ideas for episode 10, 11 with an asterisk.
What makes great salespeople? Let's kind of do the inverse of today.
Do an inverse of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm down for that. Awesome, guys. See you next episode.
Peace.